Let me just...
I just want to... Okay, yeah, I'm just looking for excuses to keep getting you to beatbox on camera.
If this whole Magic the Gathering thing doesn't work
out. My name... No. The deck Chris built me is a pain to play.
And I'm bringing mono red beats. Yeah.
My name's Taylor.
Hi, I'm Chris, and welcome to episode 5 of Commander Role Reversal.
It now requires an entire hand to list what episode we've made it to.
One whole hand.
That's one hand.
For each of us.
But before we get out of hand, remember, this is a YouTube channel, so please like, subscribe, comment, and share with an enemy and a friend and a stranger.
All three, please, if you may. And we will be sure to include the links to the deck lists on Moxfield in the description below. And as is tradition on this podcast, the winner of the matchup goes first. And who was the winner this week, Taylor?
I think it was me.
I think you won. It was me. Yeah.
But I think you won at least one of the games.
I definitely did. I got in there with those beats.
Yeah, beats really hurt. Not the ones by Dre, although the ear gets a little tight. Anyway, no, I had the distinct pleasure of winning with a commander that goes by the name of Nin, the Pain Artist, who is blue and a red for a legendary creature, Vidalcan Wizard, with an activated ability of pay blue, X, and red. In that order. I messed that up. X, blue, red, and tap. Nin, the Pain Artist, deals X damage to target creature, and that creature's controller draws X cards. Nin is a 1/1. Yeah, Nin wants to hurt everything and everyone, including my creatures, which makes me sad.
It's really an art form the way she does it.
Yeah. Chris, was this deck a cry for help?
No, I'm feeling just fine. But Thank you for asking. I appreciate that check-in.
Do you think that I'm feeling right? Because I'm conflicted after piloting this deck. No, but in all seriousness, going into it, I was expecting some shenanigans by the way of Stuffy Doll. So classic, I'm going to blow up my own creatures or deal damage to them to kind of redirect that damage to my benefit and my opponent's disadvantage. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty much just I get to throw things at you is what it feels like, but it's like a ricochet.
It is like that. Yeah, it's like how can we reflect this damage and also draw a million cards?
Yeah. I think what I'm trying to say is I've reflected on this. No, it was really cool. It did the thing. I mean, I was impressed by just how well the deck was built with the mana curve because I was really, I'm always excited to see a 2-drop come out for a commander and then just having the mana to immediately put into starting to ping like my creatures or blow up some pesky problem creatures from opponents. It went really well. And I think it kind of caught me off guard because I was expecting it to be a powerful damaging creature, I guess you would say, but I really underestimated the amount of card advantage I would get from this. I drew a lot of cards.
Totally. Yeah, that's, one thing about playing Magic is drawing and playing cards, and then it definitely helps fuel that for sure.
It did. It helped me find just how many Stuffy Doll type cards you put in this deck. Nice. So it was a lot of fun. I think just jumping into some of the strategies, Locust God was an immediate win that you threw into this, albeit a powerful one. Locust God is a 4 blue-red legendary creature god with flying that reads, whenever you draw a card, create a 1/1 blue and red insect creature token with flying and haste. He also has an activated ability. Pay 2 blue and a red for draw a card and then discard a card. When the Locust God dies, return it to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. He's a 4/4. This was evil. I mean, it really felt like the end times with the amount of locusts that I ended up making with this. My initial thought and read on this was, oh my gosh, he's so funny. The god is just going to, I can put all this damage into it. I can blow it up. I don't have to worry about recurring it. It's going to come back to hand.
You could.
but why not just blow up the tokens instead? I think I was subconsciously trying to play it the fair way. Not necessary.
No, those insects are hasty, so it doesn't matter if they get blown up on that same turn. As long as you're generating more of them, they are going to swarm your opponents.
Yeah, and that would really sting.
Didn't know where you were going with that one.
Can you tell that I couldn't either? I couldn't know where I was going with that. But I think this effect, I'm never disappointed to see hasty bodies, and they have the evasion of being flyers. So it's kind of, if I'm not quite getting there with the initial strategy of just pinging people to death with the stuffy doll type effects, being able to go wide with a token board that people aren't really able to deal with, and frankly, I don't think Terminex could either.
Not sponsored.
Yeah, not sponsored. Thanks.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Look us up.
But just being able to go wide felt like a nice kind of pocket strategy to kind of default back onto.
Yeah, it's nice to have more than one path to victory for sure. Like there are only so many stuffy doll effects that are available. So having other ways to kind of get that win is really important.
So we've established that the Locust God is a very powerful strategy, and he's not even the primary strategy, which is why I enjoy your deck building, because another card that appeared in our games that kind of helped accelerate both the main strategy and the side strategy was Teferi's Ageless Insight. You've got a legendary enchantment for 2 blue that reads, if you would draw a card except the first one you draw on each of your draw steps, draw 2 cards instead. So right off the bat, Locust God, double the bugs. It's really going to bug you.
Yeah, double the fun. Yeah, that synergy, right?
Yeah.
Teferi's Ageless Insight, though, that can be kind of a tricky card to play because it is a replacement effect, but it really depends on a card-by-card basis, like what effect it's replacing.
Right.
So check the Oracle and make sure to check with your play group and ask a judge.
Ask a judge, not us. Yeah, that's a good point, because like you get those cards that are like looting effects, like draw a card and then if you do discard a card, or discard a card and then draw a card. If it's the former, like are you overwriting the entire discard clause of that and just drawing 2 cards?
Sometimes. A lot of times. Yeah.
It's fun, but it makes you think. What doesn't make you think and just makes you angry is another card that you put in here. Psychic Corrosion, which is an enchantment that reads, whenever you draw a card, each opponent mills 2 cards. So first of all, I love that you paired that with cards like Teferi's Ageless Insight, that it's like doubling up your advantage and your opponent's disadvantage.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That feels really good. This also won all the points from me because it has that text that you really love to see in Commander.
Yeah.
I'm stealing this directly from what you used to describe Grey Merchant.
Sure.
But anytime it's each opponent instead of target opponent, if I'm going to make someone salty because I'm milling them out, I'd rather just do it to everyone so we can all be miserable.
Of course, yeah. There are a few similar cards, the 3-mana enchantments that cause a target opponent to mill, but Psychic Corrosion, that's why I included that one, because it's each opponent. Mill's definitely not the main strategy, but when you're getting 2 times X with Teferi's Ageless Insight plus the mill, that's a lot of cards that your opponents just generally don't have access to unless they're a graveyard deck.
Who builds those, Chris?
Guilty.
Yeah, I definitely am not disappointed to see it. Whether my opponents can say the same, but you must just be a masochist. Oh my gosh, a pain artist, if you will, because you put it in the deck.
I'm here for it, man.
Speaking of pain, we've made enough allusions to him. Let's talk about the OG, the Stuffy Doll. He's a 5 generic artifact creature construct with Indestructible that reads, as Stuffy Doll enters the battlefield, choose a player. Whenever Stuffy Doll is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to the chosen player. You can tap Stuffy Doll. It deals 1 damage to itself. It is a 0/1. This is the stop hitting yourself card.
Yeah, this is the primary strategy. Boy, did it work, too. You were dealing out some direct damage. Which was cool to see.
If only you had a Shadow Spear.
Oh, yeah.
Too soon? It was very satisfying. And, kind of, that's why I wanted to highlight some of the pieces before getting to the actual Stuffy Doll card that enabled me to get to it. Like you said, there are only so many actual stuffy doll-esque effects in the game. So having that card draw to accelerate into finding the piece to actually have a way to win the game is important. Yeah. So
if you're not tutoring, like card draw is the next best thing. Yeah, sometimes it's better because you're just getting more resources.
Yeah, it's like Christmas that never ends.
What are we gonna open?
Yeah. But all that to say, sometimes it's just too easy with the original stuffy doll. So sometimes you need to get a little creative, and some of the cards that you put in this deck allowed me to think creatively. The wombo number 5 of this combo was Darksteel Mirror. It's a 3 generic artifact creature mirror. Indestructible, damage and effects. Well, you know what indestructible is, but it's a 0/1. So I was able to pair this good fellow with another artifact, Blazing Sunsteel, which is 1 and a red for an artifact equipment that reads, equipped creature gets +1/+0 for each opponent you have. Whenever equipped creature is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any target. It is an equip cost of 4. So being able to equip Blazing Sunsteel to the Darksteel Mirror and just have that act as kind of like a nuke for everything on the board and players was very satisfying.
Yeah, it actually has more flexibility than the OG stuffy doll. You know, it's a 6-mana investment, right? 4 to equip, which is certainly overcosted. It's kind of a niche card, but I think this is the perfect spot for it because when you put it on an indestructible creature, you just go wild with it. It was impressive to see that.
The whole time I was running this combination of cards in the games, because luckily I was able to pull it off, all I could think of was like a Jedi that was just deflecting every single like stormtrooper bolt, and that's kind of like what was happening to everyone.
Are you trying to say I have bad aim?
Chris, what were you playing today?
I am very excited to talk about the mono red beats. I was playing Delina, Wild Mage. 3 and a red for a legendary creature, Elf Shaman. Whenever Delina Wild Mage attacks, choose target creature you control, then roll a d20. Yes. Roll 1 through 14, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of that creature, except it's not legendary, and it has exile this creature at the end of combat. Roll 15 through 20, create one of those tokens. You may roll again. Delina is a 3/2. And this deck was really, really fun to pilot. Like mono red, doing all the mono red things. You know, what I was expecting going into it was just copying creatures, creating tokens of like really good ETBs. That seemed to be, a good strategy. Right. Only the best ETBs, but really the way that it performed is just like mono red beatdown. And I did get to win one of the games, which is really cool. Just being able to pile on those tokens and, also just rolling a dice every turn.
It's fun.
It's super fun. Yeah. Like, it's not the most consistent strategy, but
darn it if you're not having fun. And I have to commend you. You were really rolling with it.
Yeah, it was my lucky day. I'll just jump right into some of the cards, some of the things that I wanted to copy with Delina's effect. First and foremost, number 1, cream of the crop, Imperial Recruiter.
Oh, dear Lord. This was obscene.
Imperial Recruiter is a 2 and a red for a creature human advisor. When Imperial Recruiter enters the battlefield, search your library for a creature card with power 2 or less, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle. Imperial Recruiter is a 1/1. So this is, just great toolbox tutor card. You had a lot of great targets in there. I think during one of the games, I ended up tutoring for 5 creatures in one turn.
As Richard Garfield intended.
How did we get there? We got there with a card called Harmonic Prodigy.
Oh.
Harmonic Prodigy, 1 and a red for a creature human wizard with prowess. If an ability of a shaman or another wizard you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional times a 1/3. Oh, Delina's a shaman.
She was a shaman, yes. It's a shaman.
So you'll be happy to know that Harmonic Prodigy was the first target I had with Imperial Recruiter. And then the next turn I ended up tutoring, I think, probably the rest of the 2 power creatures out of the deck.
Yeah,
pretty
I think
darn close.
The entire deck.
Yeah. Yeah. Good job. That was a great ETB, great combination with Harmonic Prodigy. I love that card. The fact that like it helps wizards and shamans. It just goes in a lot of decks, but this was just really, really fun to be able to make multiple copies, roll multiple dice, just keep the fun rolling.
Yeah, I wish Delina was mono white so I could do that with Recruiter of the Guard. But alas.
Same thing, but toughness.
Yeah.
Oh, you had some mean cards in here too.
I don't do that.
No, there were some mean cards for sure. One of the cards that stood out to me was Blade Griff Prototype. Blade Griff Prototype is 5 generic mana for an artifact creature Griffin with flying. Whenever Blade Griff Prototype deals combat damage to a player, destroy target non-land permanent of that player's choice that one of your opponents controls. It's a 3/2. So it's a bit of a political card, right?
Right.
You could you could theoretically, say, make a deal with one of your opponents. I'm going to attack you with this 3/2 in the air, and then you get to pick a permanent. The problem was you had Darksteel Plate.
It's a little less political when I have a Darksteel Plate on the field.
Darksteel Plate's 3 mana artifact with 2 to equip. Give the equipped creature indestructible. So. And it has indestructible itself, so just keep picking the Darksteel Plate for every single trigger.
Yeah.
I won that game anyway, but it would have been a bloodbath if I got to destroy your whole board at the same time.
Yeah, you won it out of spite at that point because you couldn't get anything destroyed with the prototype.
More fuel for the fire. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
There was another really, really good, flavorful, synergistic sub theme you had in the deck, and that was multiple combat steps.
Who doesn't love that?
Delina, triggering on every combat step, having multiple of those combat steps is a really good way to take advantage of that, make more creatures, get more ETBs, cause more pain and sadness in your play group. I think the best version of this effect, for me at least, was Port Raiser.
For sure.
Port Raiser is a 3, a red and a red for a creature Orc Pirate. Whenever Port Raiser deals combat damage to a player, untap each creature you control. After this combat phase, there's an additional combat phase. Port Raiser can't attack a player it's already attacked this turn. It's a 4/4. The joke is you're not attacking the same player with the same Port Raiser. You're attacking them with the copy of the Port Raiser that you made with Delina.
You better hope that I get a critical failure on my roll or you've got blockers. Otherwise, this is going to get silly.
Yeah. We're talking infinite combat steps.
Yeah.
Really good job there.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Eat your heart out, Godo.
The last card I really wanted to highlight because, I think this card is a little bit of there's certainly some downside, but in a Delina deck it worked awesome. Chaos Dragon, 1, a red and a red for a creature dragon with flying and haste. Chaos Dragon attacks each combat if able. At the beginning of combat on your turn, each player rolls a d20. If one or more opponents had the highest result, Chaos Dragon can't attack those players or planeswalkers they control this combat. It's a 4/4. Yep. So it's a 3 mana 4/4 with flying and haste. So that's an incredible rate. The downside being a little bit pushed. The way that it's balanced, I guess, is that you all have to roll a d20, which again, super fun way to play the game. And then if your opponents roll a higher number, you can't attack them. Well, at least not with that Chaos Dragon.
Yeah.
The token copies that you're making, you can just go wild with because you're already in the combat.
Yeah. So, I was just gonna say, correct me if I'm wrong. You don't have to, even if you fail that initial roll.
Yeah.
You get as many attackers as you get copies.
That's exactly right. Yeah, the first one gets tapped down, can't attack, but
that was definitely on purpose.
Yeah, the rest of them get in there, and it's 4 in the air, so it adds up quick.
Yes, it does.
Really cool. So those are the cards that I wanted to highlight from the gameplay perspective, but there's always cards in the deck that we want to talk about, maybe why those cards were in the deck. So did you have any that came up that were question marks for you?
Yeah. Just a couple, Chris, because I think I know at this point kind of where your head is at with most of the cards, but every once in a while there's one where I'm like, I think that this is just in here for a reason that I'm not smart enough to figure out. The first one being the tutor in the deck, Gamble. It's a red. It's just one red for sorcery that reads, search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, discard a card at random, and then shuffle. I assume, actually, I have a little clarity on this just from our conversation so far. I'm assuming this was in here as at least a pseudo way to guarantee that you have one of the hitting yourself cards out.
That's right. Yeah,
Okay.
it's not always, and is it? There's not a lot of ways to get creatures to your hand or to the battlefield from your library. So, little chaos tutor, at least gives you a chance to get that effect. So.
I love chaos. So.
Yeah, there's no other reason other than it's a tutor in red gets you your stuffy doll or one of your build a stuffy doll.
Build a stuffy doll. We got to partner with Build-A-Bear on that.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored. Do I have to stop saying sponsor anyway? So yeah, that makes sense then with that's in there. And I love a tutor that, it's kind of like thinking back to the first episode with Scheming Symmetry. Like I love tutors that are just kind of a little bit more than go get this card and that's it. So to me at least the discard made it fun.
Yeah, it's fun. There's a little mini game. It's not just get the card, win the game. Right on the spot.
But kind of in a similar vein, not so much tutor, but typically I would refer to this card as a combo enabler or a combo piece. Freed from the Real, which is 2 blue or 2 generic 1 blue enchantment aura, enchant creature, activated ability, pay blue, tap enchanted creature, pay blue, untap enchanted creature. I didn't necessarily find a way to get to infinite mana, which I figure this would abuse some of the abilities, but what did you have in mind with that?
Yeah, I was doing the math, and I think you're right. I don't think there's a way to go infinite necessarily with Free from the Rail, which is usually why you see it in a deck for, infinite untaps. It is still a pretty good value, though, if you have like multiple small creatures that you need to take care of. It's a way to untap Nin if you have enough mana open. Yeah. So I guess it still has its place, but not as strong as it can be in some decks.
Right, because I guess my approach would be, or at least every time we played, I wouldn't necessarily hold up mana after activating Nin's ability initially the first time to hit another creature. I would just kind of pour it all in for that one burst amount of card draw. But, I guess having the versatility of being able to maybe hit something else is helpful.
Yeah, more of a flexible include than anything.
You heard it here first. It was a flex, folks. But... yeah, other than those two, those were pretty much the only cards that I questioned. What about you? What did you run into?
Yeah, thanks. There were 2 cards that came up for me too. The first card that I wanted to talk about is Sundial of the Infinite, which is a 2 mana artifact, 2 generic mana. It's 1 and tap, end the turn. Activate this only during your turn. And exile all spells and abilities from the stack. Discard down to maximum hand side. Damage wears off in this turn and until end of turn effects end. I think with Sundial of the Infinite, this is a common include with Delina because it seems like you get to keep your tokens. The way that Delina is worded, you get to keep your tokens, but only until the next combat. So when the next player comes around and they go through their combat steps, you still have to exile your tokens.
Right.
But that might not be the only reason that the card is in the deck.
Thanks for giving me the benefit of the doubt, Chris. I did initially fall for that trap, when building the deck. I think Wizard was very careful in how they worded Delina.
Yeah, could have been OP.
Anytime you're copying anything, that's when things get crazy, especially with creature loops. So I do appreciate that, but there was a little bit of a sub-theme with extra turns, not just extra combat. So I think I included all of the red cards that would get you an extra turn. I don't know if any of them came up with the idea being like Final Fortune. I think that's 2 red. It's sorcery. Take an extra turn after this one. If you don't win the game by the end of that next turn, you lose the game.
Yeah, it's just like you lose the game.
Yeah. So what if you just end the turn?
Yep. Take that ability, that triggered ability off the stack.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. That's the downside of the red extra turn spells.
Yeah.
They're cheap to cast. Like you can definitely, if you only need one more turn to win, they're great. Or Sundial of the Infinite. Well done.
And just the nature of Delina, she's so explosive. So if you do have a god roll or rolls, that's all you could need. It's just one more turn.
Yeah, fair. Love it.
Thanks.
Yeah. It's mono red, baby. Yeah. I'm here for it. All right, Taylor. Well, there was one other card that stood out to me as a question mark. It's a favorite of mine, but I still had to wonder why in the world it was in this list. Karn Silver Golem.
Okay.
You'll love to see it. Karn Silver Golem is a 5-mana legendary artifact creature golem. Whenever Karn Silver Golem blocks or becomes blocked, it gets -4/+4 until the end of turn. Pay 1 generic. Target non-creature artifact becomes an artifact creature with power and toughness, each equal to its mana value until the end of turn. A 4/4. Karn's my guy, but what is he doing in this list?
Chris, Karn's my bet. Not cool, man.
I called him out.
All right. Well, I'll call you right back out because
Let's hear it.
It's easy to forget when we're talking about Karn, but the purpose of this deck was to swing with things and to multiply the things that you are swinging with. So hear me out. You turn an artifact that you have into a creature, and then you do the Delina trigger.
Okay.
And then you're swinging at your opponent with like 6 arcane signets.
They're all tutus, but
they're all tutus, baby. But
they didn't see it coming though.
Yeah.
They did not see those tutu artifacts.
And then I don't know. You have an unwinding clock. You untap them all, and then you're good.
Extra combats.
Extra mana.
Oh yeah, now you can tap them for mana if you have extra combats.
Yeah.
Whoa, ramp, baby. That's awesome.
Never doubt. Listen, man, Karn is a legend.
More ways than one. All right. Well, with all of that, I think it's time to move on to suggested cards.
Suggested cards.
Favorite part of the episode.
It is the favorite part of the episode.
Oh my gosh, where we get to pour over all the 25,000 legal cards in Commander and figure out which ones might fit in these decks.
Oh, I only looked at the illegal ones.
That's illegal.
Help. Let's start off easy. I feel like when you made this deck, you definitely had the feeling that you had it in the bag already. Like, I'm going to just sweep the competition with it. But why not just double down and include a bag of holding? 1 mana artifact. Whenever you discard a card, exile that card from your graveyard. Pay 2 and tap to draw a card, then discard a card. Pay 4 and tap, sacrifice bag of holding. Return all cards exiled with bag of holding to their owner's hand.
I see.
Jokes aside for just a moment, I mean, I was drawing a ton of cards with this deck for reasons we've already established. Thankfully, I was able to draw into some of the pieces that allowed me to keep those, like Reliquary Tower, Thought Vessel.
No max hand size.
Yeah, that was important, but just having that in there as more insurance, if you don't necessarily want to have the land slot dedicated to Reliquary Tower, that's just another way to do that. It is fetchable if you have the Urza's Saga package in there. Sure. It's a 1-drop artifact. Also, it's an artifact that you can turn into a 1/1 and then duplicate. So have fun with that. But and then also another sub-theme I noticed, I didn't really highlight it with any of the synergy pieces, but I noticed that you had a couple cards that cared about hand size mattering, right?
Oh, yeah.
For power and toughness.
Sure.
So if you really want to go in for the flavorful finish, right, you can go ahead and sacrifice that, have those cards come back to your hand, and all of a sudden it's almost like a combat trick.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. Tricky.
Yeah. Talk about subverting expectations.
You should expect it at this point. Is that how
the unexpected, folks. That's how that works.
You come to us for profound musings on life.
Yeah, this is no longer a Magic channel.
Nope.
We're just prophesizing. It's fine.
Exactly. So playing off of hand size matters, I noticed that you had quite a few creatures that cared about it mattering, and I couldn't help but be hurt that one of my favorite of those was not included in the deck.
I'm very sorry to hear that.
That's a pet card of mine from Eldraine. Sir Eleanor the Discerning, who is 3 generic blue for a legendary creature, Human Knight, that reads, Sir Eleanor the Discerning's power is equal to the number of cards in your hand. When Sir Eleanor enters the battlefield, draw a card. Spells your opponents cast at target. Sir Eleanor costs 2 more to cast. It's a *4 for power and toughness. So we got a couple things going on. It's the big beater. It comes in and it draws you a card. And as a bonus point, it has ward before ward was a thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. They hadn't keyworded ward at that point.
They hadn't keyworded.
Keyword.
Cancel us.
Amazing. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good include. I mean, I think that is one that comes down, and if you've got no max hand size, it's immediately a threat that has to be dealt with in combat. So
I know beaters are kind of all your thing that you were going with this one, but I'd be remiss not to mention that one. Switching gears entirely to another kind of sub theme you had that I'd love to see more of here. Induced Amnesia. So that's 2 generic blue for an enchantment that reads, when Induced Amnesia enters the battlefield, target player exiles cards from their hand face down, then draws that many cards. When Induced Amnesia is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, return the exiled cards to their owner's hand. So there are a couple different reasons I love this card, and it's because it rewards that kind of outside the box kind of thinking with it. So it's another card that can be used as a combat trick with the hand size matters creatures.
Sure.
So if you cast it on yourself, you're drawing all those cards. So it's a way to potentially get to some of the stuffy doll pieces if you don't already have them, because you're drawing a bunch of cards, assuming that you have a ton in your hand already. But then if you crack that, destroy it, however, and get those back to hand, it's just more value that way.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to bounce in blue too, right?
Yes.
So you could just bounce it back to your hand and use it in a different way. I love that. That's outside of the box. And you're right, like the more cards you can draw, the better in this deck, right? There's other synergies, like if you have, going back to Locust God, that's just another way to, I'm 7 insects short of winning. I can just play this card, draw 7. Yeah.
Or if you really want to be mean about it, you can target another player's creature with Nin, have them draw like 20 cards with the damage, and then play that, and then have them exile their hand. And then draw that many cards and then draw them out.
That's brutal. Yeah,
I think I'm just mean. See, I can't even like coherently explain the strategy because I'm already frothing at the bit.
Settle down.
It's just mill.
Just mill things.
Speaking of mill things, Ormos Archive Keeper. He's 4 generic blue for a legendary creature Sphinx with flying that reads, if you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, instead put 5+1/+1 counters on Ormos Archive Keeper instead. He has pay 1 and a blue, discard 3 cards with different names and draw 5 cards. So in the event that you're just going for a stylish finish, flex if you will.
Style points.
Yeah,
for sure.
or you've gotten so much ungodly value from your commander. You're going to deck yourself. Might as well do it in style because it's 5+1/+1 counters for each 1 card that you would draw that you don't have.
Oh, wow. That thing can get huge. It has evasion too, right?
It has evasion.
Oh my
and
gosh.
Just fling it.
We're back to flinging.
Cleverly working. I don't know. It's not even clever. We talked about it earlier, but I love that card. But thank you for humoring me. Last but not least, crucial include. I think if you were going to take anything away from this episode,
this is the one.
All
right. I'm here.
It's Skyclave Relic, which is a 3 generic artifact with kicker 3 that is indestructible. When Skyclave Relic enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, create 2 tapped tokens that are copies of Skyclave Relic. It's tap, add 1 mana of any color. Hear me out.
Yeah.
It's mana rock. It's indestructible. You can make tokens of it. And who needs artifact tokens that are treasure when you can just have a real mana rock? But what you do is you take the Karn Silver Golem and then you turn it into a creature that is indestructible, and you have yet another build your own stuffy doll.
I had no idea where you were going, and somehow we landed on Karn, so
I will not be out-Karned. I'm just farming karma at this point.
Is this Karma?
Karma. Stop me, please. What about you, Chris? What are some cards that you would suggest?
I will stop you. I will stop you right there and talk about some cards that I would, maybe think about considering if I were building a Delina Wild Mage deck. One of the sub themes you had here was multiple combat steps, and I noticed that you did have a card in here, Godo Bandit Warlord for 5 and a red. Legendary creature, human barbarian. When Godo Bandit Warlord enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an equipment card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Whenever Godo attacks for the first time each turn, untap it and all samurai you control. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. Godo's a 3/3. It seemed like this card was in here simply for the extra combat steps. Well, why take one extra combat when you can take all the extra combats with Helm of the Host?
What is the CEDH?
We did it. We broke Helm of the Host and Godo Bandit Warlord. For those who don't know, Helm of the Host is a 4-mana legendary artifact equipment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a token that's a copy of equipped creature, except that token isn't legendary. If equipped creature is legendary, that token gains haste. It's equip 5. You said it. Classic CEDH combo. Helm of the Host is what made Godo CEDH, because if you have, I think it's 11 mana, you just have infinite combat steps.
You just win the game.
Yeah, you just win right there. It's great. Unless
solitary confinement.
It's still winning if all of your friends pack up and leave the session too, right? That's still winning the game.
Like Charlie Sheen winning, maybe.
All right. Well, for a less well-known combo, another card that I thought to include in this deck is Fanatic of Mogus. 3 and a red. For a creature Minotaur Shaman, when Fanatic of Mogus enters the battlefield, it deals damage to each opponent equal to your devotion to red. Each red and a mana cost permanence you control counts towards your devotion to red. It's a 4/2. So the idea here is a mono red deck. You're going to have a lot of red pips out, but then you're also making copies of Fanatic of Mogus, and each one of them is dealing 1 more damage than the last one.
Wow. That's evil. That's like bringing the burn with the creatures. I love that.
It's a build your own Gary in mono red.
We're really crafty. We're like the MacGyvers, the MacGoobers, the MacGruber. Is that the MacGyver of EDH?
MacGyver's an 80s show. If you're old enough to know that show, you're in the same age group as me.
Hey, you're not the only one making dated references.
Well, with that, Taylor, I think it's time to talk about the commanders for next week's episode. And we've got a special episode coming up next week. We wanted to let our followers on Twitter choose which commanders we would build for next week's episode, for episode 6.
But not just any commanders. Commanders from the recently spoiled Streets of New Capenna.
Yeah, we're excited. This set looks awesome.
I said that like a used car salesman. I'm sorry. I'm just excited.
Yeah, totally relatable. The set's so awesome. There were so many good commanders. We didn't want to have the responsibility of choosing them, so we let the Twitterverse do the choosing for us.
And choose you did. It was a close one, though.
It was close.
Based on the results.
Very close poll. But which commander will you be building for me to play?
So
Taylor?
The people have spoken, and it looks like the commander that I will be building for you is going to be Giada, Font of Hope.
Nice.
Thank you. If you've been living under a rock, Giada is a 1 generic white legendary creature angel with flying vigilance, and reads each other angel you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it for each angel you already control. In addition to that, it has a tap ability, add 1 planes worth of mana, 1 white mana, spend this mana only to cast an angel spell. It is a 2/2.
So cool.
I get a holler for Angel Tribal.
Angel Tribal. This has to be probably the best angel commander, right?
It didn't need to be a mana dork and also a Cathar's Crusade, but here we are.
And it's 1 additional counter for each angel, right? Oh my gosh, yeah. Some of those.
What makes angel tokens? We're getting out of ourselves.
I can't wait to play it, man. Mono white flyers. Some of them have lifelink. Some of them make tokens. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be cool.
Yeah, you certainly won't have any trouble getting a life with this deck, because that sounds mean.
Implying that I don't have a life. No. I see.
We're recording this in a basement. But go on, Chris. What deck will you be building for me?
So thank you, kind Twitter followers. You picked one of my favorite new commanders from the set, Ginny Faye Jetmir II. It is a Gruul hybrid green, Selesnya hybrid, for a legendary creature elf druid. If you would create one or more tokens, you may instead create that many 2/2 green cat creature tokens with haste, or that many 3/1 green dog creature tokens with vigilance. Ginny is a 3/3. We're going tokens. We're going good boys and cats.
We did cat dog before. It was cool.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. It's a throwback.
Yeah, look at us.
This is, all the best pets you could hope for.
Yes.
And all the tokens, and maybe not such a smooth ending transition to the end of this episode because I've sort of lost it.
I think what you're saying is that the dog days aren't over.
Yeah.